You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Brian Kelly did also update a lot of the injuries. Let's start with the one that was the most concerning. It was the first opening kickoff of the game where Sevyn Banks went down, and Brian Kelly gave an update on Monday.
So the diagnosis is a spinal cord bruise, which puts him similar to Major Burns' situation, where there was a bruise, nothing else, no structural issues. That's probably going to take 5-6 weeks before we can get him back. Now, Major Burns starts, so talking about similar patterns here, Major Burns starts running today. Next week, he'll begin non-contact drills, football non-contact drills with us. So there'll be a similar protocol and procedure provided there's no setbacks along the way. So really fortunate and, really appreciate, all the help that we got from our own medical team and certainly Auburn's as well in what was a very scary situation.
So, first of all, most importantly, glad Sevyn Banks is okay. That's obviously of the utmost importance. It put such a cloud over the game when on the opening kickoff, you have a player leave the field on a stretcher. The news came during the game that he actually left the hospital, was back at the stadium, and watched the rest of the game from the locker room, which is fantastic. And it appears as though all is going to be okay. It's disappointing for Sevyn Banks because he was injured at Ohio State last year, battled through an injury trying to train to get back throughout fall camp where he was really limited, only got on the field for the first time as a Tiger a week ago against New Mexico, and now on the opening kickoff of the following game, he suffers this injury, and it looks like it's going to be weeks more that he'll miss. So, for the young man trying to get on the field, that's disappointing, but obviously we're glad that he's okay. Brian Kelly did also say Garrett Dellinger will be back this week. One thing that some of you had asked, and I didn't know, so I asked Brian Kelly today, was which hand Garrett Dellinger broke, because obviously that matters because he's your backup center. So if he broke his right hand, then he can't play center because you can't snap the ball. Broke his left hand, then theoretically he could still be your backup center to Charles Turner. So Brian Kelly and I had a little back and forth today.
It was his left.
So he's still your backup center?
Yes, he is.
Who else is repping there?
Fitzgerald West. He was not available because he was in our concussion protocol. So we were up to you as the center.
20 years ago, I'd have given it a hell of a go for you. I'd have gotten my ass whipped, but I'd have given it a go. Right now, that would be super problematic. But last week we talked about, I sort of jokingly said, when you get down and bend the knee, pray for Charles Turner's health. That sort of illustrates it, right? So to spell it out, you've got Charles Turner as your starting center. Behind him is Garrett Dellinger, who now has a club on his broken, surgically repaired left hand, and then would be snapping the ball with his right hand. Behind Dellinger is Fitzgerald West, who at the start of this season, they moved back, who, remember, was a defensive lineman in high school, who the previous staff saw at camp, offered him as a center. He signs, the new staff moves him back to defensive line, and now he's back repping at center on the offensive line. Got all that? So, and who was in the concussion protocol a week ago. So you are really paper thin at center. That is a concern. Maybe you move Marlon Martinez there as an emergency situation if you need it, but that's a problem. So you've got, I would actually argue that keeping Charles Turner healthy is the most important position on this team. I think everywhere else, and I would say Jayden Daniels is number 2, but everywhere else, you've got backups. You have options. Maybe not great options, but at center, you really don't have an option. So That's the good news there for Dellinger, is that it was his left hand. He'll have a club on his left hand, but he'll play left guard. And if they need him to, he could snap the ball with his right hand. And then obviously Jayden Daniels was the one everyone was worried about or wondering about after the game when he left the game with an injury. We saw him very abruptly in the middle of a drive leave the game due to injury. Here was Brian Kelly on Monday with the Jayden Daniels update.
Daniels is fine. He had a bursa sac, which is, I don't know the exact medical deal with that. I wish I could be a little bit more precise and articulate, but it's not structural at all, but it's painful. And so he was in pain. And so, he just felt like he was hurting the team being out there. But he felt good yesterday. The exam was clean. We did an MRI just to make sure, and that came back clean. So he's now in a pretty good position where he feels like he's 100%.
So it was the first drive of the fourth quarter. So Harold Perkins got the pick on what ended up being the last play of the third quarter. So LSU took over at their own 8. They ran John Emery a couple of times. On 3rd and 5, Daniels attempts the pass to Malik Neighbors where Auburn was flagged for pass interference. Malik was pretty animated about it, and he obviously got grabbed. And so LSU got the first down on the penalty, and then on that first down is when Nussmeier came in. And then Nussmeier played the entire fourth quarter. So I know there's a lot of people who have continued to persist and pursue the Nussmeier conversation, and I'll continue to say I don't get it. We have seen quite literally nothing from Garrett Nussmeier to warrant the level of confidence some of you have in him. And I want to be clear, because I'm not putting down this young man. What I'm saying is, and I think he has a skill set, a lot of things you like. I think he's got a good arm. He's got a good release. I like the moxie, the son of a coach, all that stuff. I like all that stuff a lot. And I think in time he can be a really good college football player. But he was 2 of 6 for 5 yards. We saw him against Southern, and he's making mind-boggling decisions, turning the ball over. Like, you're winning right now because your defense is great, and you have a quarterback that's protecting the football and allowing you to be opportunistic. Would you like to stretch the field and be more aggressive? Absolutely. We all want to see that. Your strength is your receivers. You want to see it. But if you're saying, hey, run Garrett Nussmeier out there, you are begging for 2008 all over again. You are begging for it. You are begging for the Jarrett Lee turnover season all over again. And there is nothing right now that you've seen from Nussmeier in his collegiate career to warrant the type of confidence some of you have. And again, it's not to say he can't or won't ever be that. He just hasn't to this point in the opportunities we've seen him. I mean, a year ago, he played the whole game against Arkansas. They scored 13 points in an overtime game. He was 18 of 31 with a touchdown, 2 picks, threw for 179 yards, completed 58% of his passes. His QBR was 31. Against McNeese last year, he was 3 of 10 for 19 yards. I mean, he hadn't done it. So this team is not going to win a championship. They're not going to win the SEC. They're not going to win the West. They're not going to win the national championship. That's okay. But Jayden Daniels continues to provide a bridge that allows you to set the foundation under Brian Kelly, get these young guys more experience to learn and grow to when they can finally spread their wings and fly within this offense and in the future. That's going to be fantastic. They're basically allowing Nussmeier and Walker Howard to avoid the fate that found Jarrett Lee in 2008 when, God bless him, he made some awesome plays. I mean, he led the comeback against Auburn. But there were also a lot of head scratchers for a young player who had to play too early. And the good thing is you can avoid that right now with Nussmeier and Howard. So, no, Jayden Daniels is your best path forward and will be this entire season. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.